thought I'd make a video, a quick video update of basically what's been going on in my life since March 27th, which was basically the day I decided to make my, what you would call my speak up video. Everybody was shocked by it. Let me start by saying that, because obviously we all go through certain things in our lives that we're either ashamed of, scared of, or just don't think it's right to even talk about it. But me going through the things that I've gone through in my past, and basically everybody that I had been with in my past relationships, it allowed me to see that by me opening up and telling them what had happened to me, it allowed them to feel safe and secure to open up to me and tell me what happened to them. So when I first started this video, I had no idea where it was going, what the purpose was. I mean, I had an idea that I wanted to speak up, you know, but I didn't know how to. I mean, I really didn't know where to begin. But eventually I was like, you know, if I'm gonna speak up, I might as well just share it with everyone, you know, not just with my family, but just with everybody in general, you know. Y todo el mundazo sabe que, like, that I share my whole life with everybody, on Facebook, wherever. I really don't care. I have nothing to be ashamed of in my life. Been through hell and back, and I'm still standing, I'm still strong. I'm actually, believe it or not, more motivated now than ever. But anyways, enough about that. Let me go ahead and update you guys with everything that's been going on since March 27th, which was when I uploaded the video. First thing is first, of course, I'm Dominican. In my family, la palabra, el bochinche runs like in a heartbeat. It's like, oye, fulanita se casó con fulanito, on the low key, that's it. All it takes is one person to find out, everybody knows. It don't matter if you be like, oh yeah, I'm gonna trust you, yo, don't tell nobody, look at it. Listen, they gonna tell somebody and it's gonna get around. So yeah, first things first, my mom called me up. My mom, at first she called me up, like, I guess she hadn't really seen that I stated my dad at the bottom of the description of the video. So she was like, man, oh, what the hell's that video? And I'm like, well, Mom, it's a project that I'm working on. I'm really not trying to trigger anybody in particular. You know, I did mention my father, because obviously I have to mention somebody, because I can't just say, yeah, I got molested. People are going to be like, okay, and, you know, it goes deeper, you know, and everybody was, and she just flipped out. And then she called me like an hour later, once she found out about my dad, because somebody obviously told her. And she was like going off on the phone. She's like, I can't believe you, blah, 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 blah. I'm like, Mom, I'm sorry. Like, I have to help people. I have to, like, get the word out. If I don't speak, nobody's gonna speak. If people see that it's okay to, like, you know, for you to talk, then other people are gonna talk. They're gonna feel okay with themselves talking, you know. But she doesn't get it. I mean, I understand her in a you know, in a way, because I'm sure she's embarrassed, because obviously, you know, I'd be embarrassed if I was married to a man for freaking years and come to find out, you know, he's a molester and my son also molested my daughter, you know, it's crazy. I would understand her. I understand her position. But what you guys don't know is that my mother's been aware that my dad has been a molester. You know, um, first time that he ever molested somebody was back in DR. And this was a story I found out about literally after another incident like about 4 or 5 years ago, that I told, you know, that my father, the one that molested also my cousin, he tried to basically, he was drunk out of his mind, and she was like, the first time he molested her, she was like around 9ish, and then they came over to visit, and then he ended up try something again, and she was like 18 at the time. This was a couple of years back. And when that happened, oh boy, that's when I flipped. That was one of the points in my life where I was like, yo, if I don't say something now, and it's gonna keep going. So like, and at the time I was pregnant with my son, so I was like 6 months pregnant at the time. So imagínense, my hormones were like, I'm like, I no, this has got to stop. So my dad, at the time, you know, he flipped out, and my dad was like the only person in my family at the time that was like, oh, listen, I support you being out, being gay, you know, your mom's just a little iffy about it, whatever. But that day that I called them out, I was like, yo, nigga, you need to get out of this house. Like, you are not staying in this house. It's not gonna happen. You are not touching my cousins. You're not doing none of that, you know? So, at that time, more people came out and said that, like, my dad tried to, like, hit on them and my family and shit. There's some that still stay quiet about it, like, embarrassed and ashamed and shit like that, you know? Entonces, so at that time, I was just like, yo, listen, it's not happening. I kicked him out of the house. But at that time, when, like, I was kicking him out of the house, he was like, yo, you better leave my shit alone, in Spanish. And I was like, no, you're getting out of this house. So, he flipped out on me, and for the first time ever, being the only one that supported me, he goes, mira, maldita pata. For those who don't speak Spanish, he basically called me like a dyke. And I was like, oh, hold up. I was like, mira, first of all, I'll just say it in English, but of course I said it in Spanish. I was like, first of all, I'd rather be a lesbian 1,000,000 times than to deal with a man like you, or to risk the chance of being with a man like you, because it's definitely not happening to me, you know? And don't get it twisted. Let me point this out. Don't get it twisted. Don't think that I think all men are the same, because that is not true. I know good men, but most men are sick in the head. You know, most men need help. Most men do not know boundaries, you know, as to an age, as to what's appropriate. I mean, even if they know what's appropriate, because obviously a freaking 40-year-old man, 35, 36, whatever the age is, old man should know that he shouldn't touch a 9-year-old, you know? But obviously, some just simply don't give a, you know? So, let me keep it going. Anyways, pasó ese revolú, and that was the first time I ever decided to speak up, and I told my mom about it. And that's when he called me, that's when I was like, yo, listen, what? And then that's when I flipped out, and I was like, yo, why don't you tell mom what you did to me? And then he turned pale. He was like I don't know if he couldn't believe I remembered. I was like 13 at the time, something like that. He turned pale. So he literally like flipped. He flipped. He's like, what? And he started stuttering. And my mom's like, what? That you did what? Honestly, if something like that was to happen to me, my daughter, I wouldn't have even spoke. Se lo juro alante de todo el mundazo. If that was to happen to me, you will see me in jail. Hands down, you will find me in jail. If you don't find me nowhere else, you'll find me in jail. Because, let me not even get into it. Anyways, on to the next. So yeah, that was the first time that ever happened. And the most messed up part, which is why people don't understand why I decided to keep quiet, or why I couldn't get the courage to speak up, is because of certain things that happened that made me be afraid to speak up. You know, like the first time that my little cousin was molested, you know, that was, and she was like 9 at the time and I was like 12. I ran up to my mom, and at that time I was being molested by my brother, you know, but at that time I ran up to my mom and I was like, yo mom, listen, I gotta tell you something. And she's like, what happened? And I was like, mom, dad just like force kissed, you know, my cousin. I'm not gonna put her on blast. Force kissed my cousin, this and this and this, and surprisingly enough, my mom was like, oh, if you tell anybody in the family, anybody, we're gonna have a serious problem. And at that time I was 12 years old. Like, what are you to do, you know? Obviously, like I said, I come from a Hispanic background. You know that when you bad, you get your ass whooped. And I was the type that got my ass whooped by freaking correas, extension cords, whatever the hell she put her hands on, you know, I got whooped. And like, my mom was not a bad parent, you know, at the time for hitting me. Like, I know people are really picky about that, but you know, like, I do feel like kids, when they are bad, they do deserve a good whooping. The whole timeouts and all that shit, that doesn't always work, you know. But you just gotta show them like who's the elder and who they have to listen to. So but yeah, my mom told me that. So at that time I'm like, oh my god. That's when I was like, if my own mother doesn't want to help me or help her, why the hell else would anybody else help? You know, at least that was my mentality at the time. So I stood quiet. And then at the time I'm like, okay, I could tell her about my brother, but why would I tell her? Like, why would I risk telling my mother about my brother when, you know, maybe she would have just like, oh, corrected him, or I really don't know what she would have done at the time. But the point is that my fear of seeing my mom forgive my brother and just like live our lives like a normal life, like none of that was happening to me, scared the hell out of me. I'm like, yo, if I tell my mom and she ends up just being, you know, just telling me the same thing, like, oh, you better not tell nobody in the family, I'll talk to him. What do you do by talking, you know? I didn't expect him to punish him, but maybe he needed help, maybe, I don't know. And it's so common for, it's not even in Hispanic families, I've realized. In all like nationalities, period, it's so common for men to feel that it's okay to touch blood, to touch your cousins, to touch, or to even joke around, you know, grabbing a boobie, grabbing the booty, doing something like that. It's not okay. it's really not. In the end, it affects the hell out of us. Because we feel disrespected. We feel like there's nothing we could do, you know? Hang on, stick around for part 2.